Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Linda Sue Plants for You. Welcome back. I just want to apologize first of all for taking so long to get back to you. And the reason was because I ran out of sand for one. I didn't have enough terracotta, and I ended up having to go do some running with my granddaughter yesterday, and she helped me quite a bit. So I got what I needed, and then in addition I still, of course, had to clean that table. So yesterday I was on the road almost the whole day, so I didn't get anything accomplished. So that's why it took so long. Now, the other thing is, the last time that we got together, I had shown you the table where I keep most of my Sansevierias, and I think I have one or two Haworthias on there, and maybe an aloe. Yep, one aloe. And I was going to, get that whole wall cleaned up, and I did, with my hubby's help, actually. We got that all done, and I was going to repot the rest of these off camera, but in the meantime, I received a tag from a friend of mine, Suzette from Suzette's Gardens, and it's a houseplant tag questionnaire. And she asked me if I wanted to participate, and I said absolutely. So she tagged me in it, and I am now doing it for her, or I'm moving it along, I should say. And so I'm going to answer these questions, and then I'm going to tag the people that I would like to see. And this is by no means inclusive of everyone that I would love to put on here, but there's only so much time and space, and maybe somebody will know some of those people, and they'll tag them. So, but there are 10 questions here that I need to answer. So I thought rather than just sitting and answering these questions, I would do that while I'm repotting the rest of these plants. And if I get done with the questionnaire before I get done with the repotting, I'm going to shut the camera off in the interest of time. And then my next moment will be of the finished product. So I thank you all for being so patient with me and for joining me in this endeavor. And, well, let's get started then, okay, shall we? All right. I do have a lot of new terracotta pots. My table is full of them, and I'm excited about that because I managed to find the size that I can never find anymore, and I bought quite a few of them, and the saucers to go with them. So, yay on that one. Alright, so the first plant we're going to do, I've already put some soil in here, and I've already put a little paper towel because they're making those holes bigger now, those drainage holes. And if you don't put something in the bottom, the soil comes out. I mean, it always did a little bit, but now it like pours out. So now I do definitely put something in there, and it'll dissolve eventually, but by then the soil will be a little more compacted, and a little tiny bit might come out, but it's not like when you first repot them. Okay, so everybody knows about my trusty green bowl here, and we're going to put that's where I always put my old soil. Well, actually, I don't think this one did need to be repotted. There's not a lot of root system on here. I'm going to cut this off. And you know what? I need to move my camera. There's something wrong here. The angle I have this at. So bear with me. I'm going to turn off my camera for a moment. Okay. I think I got it in the right spot now. I took this out of this little pot, which I think it probably should have stayed in, because I'm looking at the roots on here. There aren't many. And actually, I think I'm going to put it right back in there because it wasn't that long ago that I repotted it. Actually, let's use a clean one here. I'm going to Yeah, because if I put it in this bigger one, that's going to be way too big for that, and it's going to end up, well, like any other plant. If the roots are too small for the pot, when you water it, the soil stays wet, and the plant can only drink up so much, and then it stays wet. So that's how we get root rot. And like I said, there's not much on here. A few. And I'm going to rinse this off real quick because it's very dusty. Thank you for your patience. It's hard to rinse off when it's in the pot. And I do, now and then I do wipe off my leaves. I do wash my leaves on all my plants, but in this case, it's much more difficult to do when they're in the pot. So I just wanted to give them a quick rinse under the water there. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day about the videos, and she mentioned to me that she gets frustrated with herself when she forgets stuff. And I agreed 100%. And I said, I do it every single time, almost every time. Unless I'm doing a tour. Well, even then, sometimes I forget something that I wanted to tell you guys. And when I'm editing and I'm looking back at the video, it's like, oh, dang, I wanted to tell them blah, blah, blah. And that's frustrating. And the other thing is not bringing the right tools to the table. And, you know, I think part of that is every repotting experience is a little bit different, and every plant requires a little bit different, you know, type of tools, care, pot, or what have you. And so it's understandable, but yeah, it can be frustrating. Alright, that's that one. My little bird's nest Sansevieria. It's the solid green one. I forget the botanical name. But I will say, and again, if there's anyone who that's really important to, if you ever see me display a plant on my channel and you want to know the name of that for whatever reason, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments section. I'll be happy to look it up for you and get you that information. As I said, I think in one of my last videos, I am getting to a point where I would really love to have the botanical names of all of my plants, but I have close to, it's probably over 200 now. Yeah, I'm sure it is. And that's a lot of plants for me anyway. Some of them I know like the back of my hand because I've had them for years, and others I just know them by their common name. So that's why I haven't done it yet. Okay. The second question from the houseplant tags is, what is your oldest houseplant? Well, if you include the plants that my grandma had that I took care of, that would be African violets and succulents and some other flowering plants. I honestly don't remember what all was up there anymore. I can kind of remember how it looks, and I remember a few of them that stuck out at me, but that's many years ago. But my own very first plant was actually a coleus, believe it or not. And I know that most people think of that as outdoor, but that was when I was in my very early 20s, 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. And I was at a church fair, and there was a lady set up there with a table, and it was the end of the day, and she was selling plants. And one of the things she had was a Dixie cup with this little coleus in it. It was only about this big, the cup, and then the coleus was maybe this big, and it was all wilted over. And she wanted whatever she wanted for it. I believe she was charging $1, but no, she was charging 50 cents, but she said she'd give it to me for $0.25. And I didn't even have to think twice about it. I thought, well, heck, for $0.25, I'll try it. So I took it home, and I put it in a window, east window of our home, and I watered it, and I hoped for the best. Well, I got up the next day, and I was so excited. Excuse my reach. I was so excited to see when I opened that door next to the pantry. We had an old bungalow. It was a beautiful home though. I opened that door, the sun was shining, and up was standing that coleus. Beautiful. Now, if any of you are interested in seeing what that coleus looked like or what it turned into, I had another one since then. And it's in one of my more recent videos, and it too was in my east window, and it was big. I have since given that to my daughter, just because I wanted to open up the light in my dining room. It was taking, it was in the way of my sunshine getting into my room to my other plants. And she loved it, so I gave that to her. But my original coleus was, it was about 5 feet tall by about 4 feet wide, the whole plant. My husband actually built a trellis for me, a homemade trellis, and it took up a whole, half a wall in our living room when we lived in the farmhouse. It was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I would have never thought that plant would grow that big, but it did, and it was so deep in color and rich in color. Well, when we moved into this house in '85, it was November, and I lost a lot of plants during that move because the weather was not like this November. It was every single day. It was like today, actually. It was icy and snowing and sleet, and the weather was just horrible that year. So, yeah, I had furniture that I almost got ruined. I lost a lot of my plants, and that was sad. Okay, I'm moving on to the sad-looking aloe here. Let's see if we can get her out of here. And honestly, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. My aloe in my bedroom that I repotted a while back, it's alive, but it looks kind of like this. It's kind of, when I see other people's aloes, they're more upright. And I don't know if I'm not watering mine enough. I think there's a good possibility of that because I do tend to underwater, but I don't know. I'm just putting a little sand in with my soil. I do that with all of my cactus and succulents. Most of them seem to like it. Of course, you couldn't tell by this one. But I am thinking that this is underwatering. Okay. Next question. Question 3. What was the first plant to really kickstart your collection? Well, I guess that's kind of like the last question, but if by collection, well, let me answer it this way. The very first plant that I owned was that coleus. I wouldn't consider that the first plant that kick-started my collection. I think that was my spider plant, and I do have a video on that. It's an older one, way back somewhere. And that plant I got also in my early 20s. And you'll hear the whole story if you want to go watch it. It's kind of funny, actually. But I still have that plant and babies from that plant that have now grown into mama plants. So if you want to hear the story behind that, go and watch that one. It's really interesting, actually. Okay. We're going to water that up. Alright. Question number 4. What plants do you struggle to keep alive? Oh boy. I gotta say ferns. Ferns have always been a challenge for me. And I think it's because they really love the hot, humid, environment, and that does not work for me. I like cool temperatures, and the older I get, the worse that's getting, so I'm going to say that's probably my biggest challenge is ferns. I do have a few, and I do great with them outside, but when I have them in the house, I've got my blue star fern. That's gorgeous, and that's no problem. My kangaroo paw fern, something happened with that. I just did a video on that not too long ago, last week, I think. The asparagus spring rye, I have no issues with, and I don't know anybody that does. That just grows like a weed. But I have a silver lace fern that I am still struggling with, but it's still alive. And then my bird's nest ferns, those are pretty easy to take care of too. But anything in the fern family that's real delicate is a problem, and that's sad for me because I love the delicate looking plants. They're my favorite, and I think that might even be a question on here. Okay, what is the biggest mistake that you made with a plant? Overpotting and overwatering, hands down. I didn't understand the concept of overpotting a plant years ago, and when I learned, how a plant takes up water and the actual workings of that plant, I went to our city school at MATC just to take those classes that they offer for non-credit classes. And they had some on horticulture, so I took them just because I was so interested in it. And I learned a lot in there. That was many, many years ago. But that's where they explained how the roots of your plant only require so much soil, and they can only drink up so much water. So if you have a plant like this, for instance, and you put this, right now it's in I would say that's a 6-inch pot. If I was to take this out and put it in a 10-inch pot, those roots, they're only going to drink up so much water when you water it, and then the roots will be sitting in wet soil. And you hear a lot of people say, you don't want your plants to have, they use the term wet feet, and that's what they're talking about, and you don't want that. I mean, there are some plants that do thrive on that, plants that grow in water, and I know I'm not an orchid raiser, but I know, well, Suzette from Suzette's Garden, she has orchids and she's very good at it, but she works at it. I mean, it's not something, those plants aren't something you can just stick in the soil and walk away and hope for the best. You have to have a love and a talent for those plants. And one of the things that for me are very challenging about them is the root system and keeping them at just the right wetness. And for me, it's just a little bit too much. So that's not been my cup of tea. But I applaud those who have them. They're beautiful, beautiful flowers. Overwatering, yep. I used to be a real bad at overwatering because I didn't have many plants. I couldn't afford them years ago, and so I really doted over, kind of like when you only have one child and you dote over that child because you don't have to split up your time, your love, your money, and everything else between, 2 or 3 children. It's only natural that you're going to give it all to that one. And it's the same way with plants. When you only have a few, you want to be by them, you want to nurture them, and you want to take care of them. So we tend to over nurture, and we give them too much water maybe, or too much plant food, or whatever we do. But that has not been a problem for many years for me. In fact, I've gone to the opposite extreme, and I am now a chronic underwaterer. So I don't know what to say about myself, but it is what it is, so I'm just putting it out there. I have nothing to hide, folks. And just remember, there's a lot of people that are just starting out and they get frustrated with themselves and they want, they say, I can't keep anything alive. I don't have a green thumb. You know what? I don't think there is any such thing as a green thumb. I think if you really enjoy the plants that you have, if you're buying it for the right reason, if you're buying it because you love plants, and you really want to make that grow, you're going to find a way to make that grow. And if you are buying plants just for the sake of filling up your house to try to be like everybody else, and chances are, if you're not really good with plants to begin with, you're probably going to have problems with them. So just, don't lose hope. Don't get discouraged. If you want to be a plant lover and a plant person, a plant mama or a plant daddy, you can do this. I promise you. If you really want to do it, you can do it. Okay, now this one I'm not going to repot because I just did that not too long ago. And as you can see, it is full of dust, and I did not take it out and wash it. So now I'm going to wash these leaves. But we're going to put that aside for now. And I think because, in the interest of time, I am getting distracted, I'm going to do the rest of these off camera, and I'm just going to finish up my questionnaire. And what is the most expensive plant that you bought that's still alive? Probably the corn plant that I used to own that I no longer have. I believe we spent somewhere around $25 for it. Back in 1987 or 6. It was a year or two after I moved in this house. And I had it up until about 5 years ago. And I gave it to my neighbor lady. And it took several guys and a dolly to get it out of my house and across the yards and into her sunroom. And the plant was, I believe it was about 11, 12 feet tall and very big. It had 3 stalks in it, corn stalks, and it was the variegated leaves. It was a beautiful plant, but it was just too big for my living room. And I had it for so long, and when we went to put in our new carpeting, I didn't realize it, but that mold smell that I kept smelling now and then was coming from the flooring underneath, the subflooring, under that plant, because it had cracked through the pot and the water was leaking. and it had been leaking for a long time by the looks of that mold. So that was pretty scary for me. So since then, I put anything that's on the floor gets double trayed. I get a cheap plastic tray. I put that inside of the bigger, more firmer tray, so that if there is a leak in one, the other one will catch it. My real big ones, well, I don't have any real big ones anymore, but the biggest one I have, I think, is my golden pothos that's in my living room. Many of you have seen. And I have that on rollers so that I can move it around. That way, when I vacuum or what have you, I can check that floor and make sure that it's not getting wet under there, because that was horrible. The poor guys that came to put our new carpeting in, they stayed here with me while my husband went to the hardware store and got new plywood, and they were helping me dig out the old, we sawed that corner of the subflooring out, and those 2 carpet layers helped me pull that all out of there and get it ready while my husband went and got a new piece. Wasn't that just some, I mean, can you even believe that they would do that? So obviously we gave them some extra money to put in their pocket, but they didn't have to do that, folks. I mean, talk about an act of kindness. And I think you saw the panic on my face when we pulled that up. It was like, what are we going to do? And they couldn't lay the carpeting until we had that done. So we were really in a dilemma. But, yep. Anyway, we have a lot of excitement in our life, but that's okay. And the reason I say it was expensive is, you know, that back in the mid 80s, that was $25 was a lot for a plant. That would be like, that plant today would probably cost close to $300. The size that it was and the health and everything. If you were to find that plant today. Because I've seen them for sale, and they're not cheap, but, you know, they're not the most expensive plant either, but they're, in comparison to the one I had here, it would probably be at least $250, maybe close to $300. Most of my plants I try to keep price-wise, I try to keep between $10 and $20. I feel like that's a fair price for most plants. Sometimes I go, you know, I've gone as high as 26, 27, and I'm, you know, I don't have a problem going even higher than that if it's a plant that is just impossible for me to find. All right. Number 7, do you have a certain variety or genus you are drawn to? Dainty leaves and hanging vines are my favorite plants. I absolutely adore the intricacy of the dainty leaves, like on the Tradescantia, the baby bunny belly. I love those leaves. I can't think right off the top of my head here. The baby's breath, which I don't own yet. A lot of the, I want to say euphorbia. That's not what I'm, not the right word, and I can't. I know that you, well, anyway, they're hanging plants, and there's a lot of different varieties, and they are, well, the mistletoe cactus is one of them, and the botanical name escapes me right now. So, but those plants, that family, I like that a lot. Okay, number 8, do you also garden outdoors, and if so, are they edibles, like herbs, fruit, and veggies, or flowers? I did, and I do, and let me clarify that. For years, my father always had a vegetable garden, and he also planted some flowers and shrubs. My mom, she had flowers. She has roses. My grandmother, both grandmothers. In fact, my grandmother in California was like the rose queen out there. Everybody wondered how she got her roses. And I did have a number of them around my house, and when I was able to take care of them, and they were beautiful. But I'm not able to do that anymore, so we had to dig them. We dug them all up except for 2 plants. One that my husband takes care of and one that I got right next to the house. And it needs more attention next year. My health does not allow me to walk around alone outside on the lawn. I have fallen a few times, and I'm just, even with a walker, I'm not able to do it. So that is a sad thing for me. I'm hoping that it's going to turn around someday and that I will be able to do that again. We have square foot gardens in the backyard, 2 of them. And yep, I love growing fresh vegetables. I grew up on fresh vegetables. My dad and my sister would work in the garden with him, and I'd get to go and pick the kohlrabi and whatever, the tomatoes and the zucchini, and we had 2-3 fresh vegetables on our table almost every night. That was the way we grew up. So yeah, I'm very much into outdoor gardening, but right now, because of my health issues, I'm pretty much the porch is my limit. So I have been dressing that up quite a bit more than normal, because that's my world. It doesn't go off of the porch unless I'm hanging on to my husband's arm, and he still works, so that's not an option. But that's the answer to that. Okay, number 9, almost done. What is the coolest plant in your collection? Wow. I'm gonna have to say my Alicia peperomoides. That plant, when I first got it, was only a couple inches tall, and it was at a time when nobody could find them. They were very rare. They were just starting to come into the United States, and I found one at Stein's. I walked in and I couldn't believe it. It was either $12 or $14. I want to say it was maybe $14 on sale for $12, but it was tiny. It was this big, and it grew into this massive plant, and it's growing like crazy right now. I just did a video on it not too long ago, the repotting of it, and since I repotted it, it went into a little bit of a shock, and then it took off again. So it's going to need repotting again, folks. And if you watched that one that I did last time, you can hear the anxiety in my voice, because those petals break off so easy, and I did lose a few during that transplant. So I'm not looking forward to doing that again, but that is really my coolest plant. I mean, it just looks like a bunch of green silver dollars. It's, if you haven't seen that, if you don't know what that is, you should look it up. It's called Alicia peperomoides, or Pilea. You can pronounce it either way, by the way. I did look that up one time, and it's Pilea, I believe, and then peperomoides. And again, if you need the spelling of that, just let me know, and I'll look it up to make sure that that's correct. All right, last question. What is the number 1 plant you want in your collection but haven't acquired it yet? Oh boy, this is easy. My Begonia maculata wittii. Although it's on its way, folks. I ordered it from Logie's. They had them in 2-inch pots, so I ordered 2 of them, along with 2 other plants. So I am very, very excited. I cannot wait till that comes to my home. I've been wanting that plant for, it's got to be close to 2 years. And every time I was on a waiting list, when they would notify me that they were ready, within minutes they were gone. By the time I got to my computer and wanted to claim it, it was gone. So I'm really excited. So we'll see how that goes. But the other plant that I'm really on the lookout for is the ghost cactus. I think it's in the euphorbia family. Keely Joy just gave one away not too long ago. maybe a month or so ago, maybe a little better. I think it was around Thanksgiving she did that. But she had 2 of them, and one of them she was giving away. I was not, didn't happen to be the lucky one, but that is something that if you can find it, you'll know why I like it so much. And I'm stopping here because my camera's beeping, and oh, it is still recording. Okay. So anyway, that is a really beautiful plant. It's a very light blue, whitish blue. It's so pretty, and I don't see it anywhere ever. So there's a couple different kinds, and there's the kind that it's round and it's got the spikes coming out the side. That I like that one too, but this one is more of a, it looks like a euphorbia to me. I don't know. I'll have to look that up, I guess, some other time. But that's my big wish list plant. So I hope I've answered all these questions. I think I did. Yep, number 10. Yep, we got them all answered. So I hope you enjoyed this segment, this video, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera and finish repotting these. I'm going to get them back on the table where they belong, and then we're going to do our final epilogue, and you can see the before and after. And then I will be downloading it, and just remember it does take quite a while, so although this is going to be up tonight, I don't know what time. But if you are a subscriber of mine and you have the notification button clicked on all, then you will get notified when it's up and running, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too long, and I hope to see you all back. I've got more of my own things planned for you that I have not done in the past, and I'm anxious to do, and I'm still doing good health-wise, so let's pray that that continues, and we'll see you all shortly. And we are completed. My goodness, that was a lot more work than I was counting on, but we got her done. That is my side table in my living room that you saw at the beginning of the part 1 of these videos, and I've got my whole wall cleaned and the carpeting, and all the plants have been repotted, and they were all in pretty good shape, but a couple of them were a little neglected. My aloe here on the corner, she needs to be watered more often, I think. And my Sansevieria marginata in the back there, she just needed more room. She hasn't done much of anything since I've had her here, and she was in a lot smaller pot, but she's gonna take off now, I'm pretty sure. Other than that, the rest of these plants were doing very well. My Sansevieria samurai is growing. And these are all bird's nest Sansevieria. And they all have different names, but again, folks, I don't remember what they are. And then one Haworthia, the zebra. So that's it. We're done. Everything's been cleaned, washed, repotted into fresh soil, fresh pots. My elephant pictures are all shiny again. And everything up on that shelf has been taken down and washed and put back up. And my bowl, below my grandma's babysitting service sign, that says, in case you want to know, it says, Grandma's babysitting service, little people always welcome. Service includes Meals, lessons, entertainment, and lots of hugs. Tender, loving care for your most precious possession. It's been up there for years, and it's going to be up there till I die. Okay, and if you remember, this was just a stand that my daughter got me for Christmas. Actually, for my birthday. And yesterday when I was shopping, I was so hoping that I would come across the red Maranta, and I did. I bought 2 of them. I have this plant already, but I didn't want to cut up the one I had. So I bought these 2 to put in here. But the problem I'm running into is this pot is a little too tall to fit down here. So not a big deal. I'm going to put it in a more shallow. I'm going to put the other one in a shallower, wider but shorter container, and then that'll fit in here. And then I'm hoping it's all going to trail down this wall. Just one big gigantic prayer plant. I think that would just be so beautiful. I was a little bit worried about that air cleaner because it was right underneath there, but we moved it over. I'm going to move it a little further. My husband just went and got me an extension cord. And it's not going to hurt what it's in front of. That's a curtain separating our hallway from our back room. And we have a board on there for right now. We were going to just drywall that off, but I think we had several different plans for it, so I decided just to put the curtain up and until we figure out what we're going to do with it. And it's a little crooked right now. It needs to be washed and rehung. But that will catch that excess dust bunnies that come from that air cleaner. And then I can just take that down and throw it in the washer, as opposed to, if you remember, this wall and everything on it getting completely covered in the excess that comes out of that air cleaner. And there really is no other place to put it where it's going to do the job it needs to do. So in case you're thinking, why doesn't she move it, that's why. But this is it. I'm so excited that this is done. I did leave this Sansevieria in its original pot because I really like the way it looks, and I didn't want to disturb it. And if you remember, or those of you that follow me will remember that these were from my daughter's plant. They were cuttings. They were pieces that were falling away from her plant, so I just brought them home and potted them up, and I've got a lot of new shoots in there since then. They're a little wonky because of the fact that I don't have a drainage hole in that pot, so I do tend to underwater that a lot because I don't want to rot the roots out, and it also doesn't get a whole lot of light there. It only gets a little light in the afternoon from the west window, so otherwise those leaves would be standing straight up and they'd be a lot darker. But it's okay. I like the way it looks, and it's fine the way it is for me. And we did get rid of the the Franklin stove. It is no longer in the hallway, and grandson's puzzles are in the spare room where they belong. So that mess is cleaned up. The wall's cleaned up. The table's been washed. The plants have been repotted. And we hung hooks. Remember, I said I was going to ask my husband to pound some nails or hooks up in there so I can start trailing my Hartley philodendron to go that way. Right now, remember, it's going up here. And I want it to go along all the beams. So we are trailing it that way. And if you can see these, the reason those are so sparse is because they weren't getting any light. Those were the ones that were hanging down on the floor, and they weren't getting any light. So I expect those to fill in a little bit now that they're up there. And we'll have more foliage from the original plant that I can drape over those, even if, you know, if they are sparse. And maybe someday it'll grow all the way up and up this wall and up around and down and over my shelf. That's my plan. We'll see what happens. But we are done. This is the end of it. I really appreciate those of you that are hanging in there with me through all three parts of this video. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a nice weekend, what's left of it. I know I'm going to be watching the Packers tomorrow. Go Pack, go! Other than that, I think I'm going to call it a day. Oh, before I go, I'm going to give a shout out to the people that are on my list here for the... Sorry about that. Okay. The people that I have tagged that I hope will participate are Simply Alicia A, Summer Rain Oaks, Winding Leaf, Pam's Planty Things, Danielle Tells, Kathleen Murphy, and Just Myra. So I hope I will contact all of those people and let them know that they have this invitation, and let's hope that they'll participate. It's really kind of fun to hear the more personal side of our plant friends and how they got started and where they're at now and their likes and dislikes, and it's kind of like having chatting on the phone, isn't it? So alright, well, you all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.